Hey, how's it going out there? If you're seeing my face, then you probably know it is time for another paint stream. I have some miniatures with me today from Ogre Mini Set 4. So that is new tanks, new GEVs, all the unit type stuff. And this is where, not being an Ogre expert, I think these are for the Combine, or is it Pan Euro?
I,
Who has the Ogres in the core set and who has the units?
I think boy, boy, you're gonna get me in
I
trouble
think,
too.
yeah.
Because it's blue and red. I can't remember. I think blue is Pan Euro and red is Combine, but I might be crazy. Someone in chat correct us if we're wrong on that one.
So whatever the tanks and stuff that we have already been making and selling in plastic for the last few years, whatever those were, this is not them. This is new. This is new
This is
infantry.
the other faction.
Yeah, new infantry, new tanks, new light tanks, new GEVs, new light GEVs, new howitzers, new mobile howitzers, and it will also come with a Mark One and a Mark Two. When those have always been some of my favorite ogres. I like to think that they're like smarter and more cunning than the more bigger, meaner ogres because they've been around. You know, they're all like sentient, intelligent tanks.
And there's also
So they
supposed to
have
be
like
more of them.
decades of battlefield experience, even if they're not as tough and they're easy to put down. Also in the studio today, I have Hunter, I have Brandon.
Yo,
Why did I wave? Yeah,
Yeah.
hello. everyone.
Hunter did wave to y'all. You can't see it. He knows you can't see it. He did it anyway. That's just the kind of guy he is.
chat says those are combine.
Okay,
I was
Combine.
right. Ah, yes.
You were right. Good job.
Okay. Good for me. I know
Good job.
stuff. Okay. But before we get started, you guys, if you follow us on Facebook, you may have already heard that we have some really sad news. Eric Dao passed away last week. This is our first stream. I'm really bad at this sort of stuff, but I just wanted to say, you know, Eric, we all miss you. We're all thinking about you. We're thinking about your family. We miss you. And well, you know what? It sucks. Cancer sucks. Leukemia sucks. We're sorry you had to go, man.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him around here. It was, if you guys don't know Eric, he was on a few of our streams in the past. He's done, I think he even did a hobby stream with us, but he's done Munchkin streams and stuff like that.
He may have done a hobby stream with you. I don't
Yeah,
think
and
I've ever done a stream with him, but obviously I knew him.
Yeah, and like he ran a game store here, Wonko's, for
Yep.
years and years. But he's been an employee at Steve Jackson Games for a long time. Been a friend of Steve's for much longer than that too.
And he did. If you've been to if you've been to visit us at conventions, he went to quite a few of those.
Yep,
and
he
you
was
would have met
he
him.
ran them for a bit. He ran PNORDCon. If you came down and visited us at PNORDCon, you probably saw him there. He was running around left and right. He's always doing stuff. He loved hanging out with playing games with everybody, and it was a bummer. I think his biggest bummer situation of the whole thing was that he couldn't do conventions and he wasn't able to get out and play games with people anymore.
Yeah, and
that was
I mean, for those of you who were close to him, unfortunately, we had to follow this whole crazy roller coaster on Facebook where he would post and say, "Oh man, my counts are good, everything's looking good," and he'd be really excited, and then it'd just be another crash, and
It's always
it's been
tough.
so sad for like to watch it go up, and it seems like maybe everything will be okay, and then down again, up again for a little while, then down again, and then we heard it was probably the worst case,
Yeah.
but he probably had about 6 weeks left, and then 2 weeks later, that's
Yeah.
it.
It really sucks, but we're thinking of you guys out there,
Yeah.
and the rest of the family. Thank you, thanks for everything, Eric. Honestly, it was awesome being your friend,
Yep.
and this sucks. So sorry for the bummer, guys, but we really wanted to say something about
Yeah.
it. And
It just wouldn't have felt right to go ahead and not even acknowledge this because we all miss
Oh,
him
yeah.
so much.
it's been a rough few years, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having gotten that out of the way, I know Eric would want me to paint these cool tanks and stuff.
yeah, I mean, he loved actually. That was one of the things. He if you actually check
He was
out.
a Minis fan and an Ogres fan.
And a
so
painting
I
fan.
know
He
yeah.
actually painted our demo sets for Car Wars. Those solid color ones that you see at the conventions, those are ones that he painted. They're actually right now at Gamma. The reason that, not the only reason, we love having Ben in the studio. Obviously, I'm a big fan of his. But we are a little short-staffed right now. I couldn't play a full playthrough of anything this week because the team's at Gamma. And they're showing off our games to retailers and other
And I don't know,
publishers and stuff like that.
Jimmy's usually here. Where's Jimmy at?
He's at Gamma.
Jimmy is at Gamma.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jimmy's a Gamma. A lot of people are Gamma right now, and they're demoing the games and showing off. And that's actually where Eric's cars are right now. Is they're on the demo table. They're doing game nights and all sorts of stuff. So,
But yeah,
so
it's
Eric's presence is still around.
It
He's still
is.
got
It
his
very
stuff.
much is. You can't come into this office and look around and not see something that he had something to do with. 'Cause
Absolutely.
He 3D printed a bunch of stuff for us.
Oh
on
yeah.
top of everything else.
He kind of got Steve
So-
into 3D printing, honestly. We've moved into like now we make STLs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
he's had quite an impact here for sure.
But yeah, like I said, he would love these minis, I'm sure, and he would want.
I think he had a
See them
lot.
painted.
He was involved with Ogre Minis quite a bit actually. Cause I remember guiding that, especially set one through the STL process. You know, getting those old because the original process. For those that don't know necessarily, this is our bid mentions is set 4 for Ogre Miniatures, so we've done a number of sets at this point. But our first one was the biggest hurdle, and we've been doing Ogre Miniatures since forever, like the 90s. We've had the metal miniatures.
Yeah, I'm not sure when Richard.
I think it was either late 80s, early 90s. I can't recall exactly, but
I think it might have been a little further up because I thought they were actually Didn't he do them in 3D and print them like in some really early?
I think they were hand sculpted. Well, maybe not though. You might be right. But we
'Cause
took those
he had
original
all the-
models. That's what we based the plastic ones on. And Eric had a lot to do with pulling those out of archives, you know, and getting those out in a, you know, actually usable form essentially. I remember that was a huge painstaking process, especially because it was a little bit before we were doing a lot of the 3D printing stuff.
Yeah.
So just a challenge, but it's worked out pretty well. It's taken us a little while, but this set 4 we're really excited for. We don't have an exact date for this one. This will be a crowdfunding project. I believe it'll be Kickstarter because we moved most stuff to Kickstarter, although the original ones I believe were on Indiegogo. We'll
Some sets certainly were.
yeah, we'll see, but it's definitely in the works for. Got the plans this year for it. Speaking of, we actually have a Kickstarter going right now. It's ending very short. It's ending in a couple hours. The Dungeon Fantasy
Dungeon
Monster
Seeds-
Seeds.
Monster Seeds.
Yeah, so this is like a little inspirational book of. It collects a lot of what we call monster seeds, which are essentially like inspirations for like foes and stuff and monsters to use in your campaign. And we planted them around a bunch of different products in different spots, different areas. This is just like the collected booklet for that. So you'll have it all in one spot. So if you're a game master and you want to try to make some new monsters for your campaign, or you want some new foes for people to fight, great little booklet for that. If you're trying to get into Dungeon Fantasy, really cool alternative RPG. There's a lot of good. There's like a get started bundle that's a super good deal, and there's going to be add-ons and stuff like that that are really great ways of getting started with the game. So.
And if you didn't know, Dungeon Fantasy is sort of powered by the GURPS engine. It just sort of compiles character archetypes into ways that are kind of easier to take off and run with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the dedicated fantasy GURPS is how it really comes off to me.
Yeah.
Like you can already do fantasy within GURPS, but this is like designed to be just that. So yeah, it's a great little system. Has a lot of cool support from stuff like Gaming Ballistic. Doug Cole does a lot of good stuff for it with his Nordland campaigns and stuff like
I
that.
knew he did TFT stuff for us, but I did not know about
The Nordland stuff is for Dungeon Fantasy, so he has some TFT stuff as well. So
Okay. All right, so now we talked a little bit about that Kickstarter. So what I'm doing here, after a lot of trial and error, I have found that really, at least for me, the easiest way and one of the best ways to get a good look with these little things is to start with Airbrush. I like to do, as you can see, sort of like a little highlight strip down the middle just to mix up the surface. I talk about this a lot. I don't like just straight flat surfaces, so a lot of times I'll put some kind of gradient down the middle, sort of like a highlight transitioning to the color and back again. On the sides, I just sort of give it a blast of a darker color. In this case, it's the wine red. If you guys watch these, you know I love my AK wine red. And then on the top, it's deep red is kind of like the base color. You know, highlight that with a little bit of dead red. This is another one I brought up before. I feel like dead red is supposed to look like raw meat rather than like a gross sort of putrid zombie dead color. And then the last one is salmon. So it's just sort of a nice warm pink. It's got just a little bit of orange in it. So it looks, you know, it looks a little bit more vibrant than like, you know, like your grandma's curtains or whatever.
that's a good
And that's
comparison.
really good for a highlight.
You don't necessarily need an airbrush for stuff like this. You
No, and you can do this. It's faster.
yeah, yeah.
And it allowed me, a few hours before coming in to put something down that I could work on a base from. Because what I really just wanted to show today is, because these tanks are, they're made of geometric shapes. They have lots of angles and plates and stuff. So much of getting them to look cool is the edge highlights. So I wanted to set up a base that I could use to start adding edge highlights and lining. Lining being, like getting the brush down there in those crevices and picking those out with darker colors. A lot of people just sort of, refer to it as the catch-all term black lining, but I'm not using black. I'm using wine red, or in some cases, wine red mixed with a little bit of this black green. Um, there's actually a different color I normally use, but it looks like it got left out of the paint box in my rush to get over here.
Speaking of the geometric shapes and stuff like that on those, if you want to, or speaking of like the finished products, I guess, if you want to see some of Ben's finished projects, we actually posted some pictures on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, featuring just a couple battle scenes. We have a few other pictures we're going to be sharing over the course of the next few weeks, months leading up. And you'll see some more sneak peeks of some of the minis that he's painted. He's obviously an incredible painter, but now you get to kind of see his process, get some tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And you'll see
I'm
him on the
just,
campaign as well.
I'm just going over the edges, trying to add highlights wherever I can. Whenever you can, if you can hit it with the side of your brush, sometimes you can get like two different surfaces at once with the side of your brush, and that's always like the easiest way. Shoot, I'm looking at the screen trying to see if it looks like you guys can even see what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm trying to grab both like the edge of this like tread cover, as well as, I mean, I assume this is sort of ablative armor along the side. Oh, and this is a mobile howitzer, by the way. I should have brought in a super heavy, but I did not. I just sort of grabbed some stuff that was close to ready to go, some things that I primed but hadn't painted yet. So now I'm going to go in. Basically, the lighter the area, the lighter you want your highlight to be, obviously. So I'm going to go for some pure salmon around the highlighted spots over here. I had initially tried to do this whole project with some washes and contrast paint, and it's really hard because these things have such fine detail.
It's a good thing for the mini, though.
Yeah, the whole thing, it can often just get, you just get the whole thing ends up being the same color as all the recesses. And that's kind of how I ended up just starting off with the airbrushed base coat.
Pure Salmon sounds like an adult contemporary radio station to me.
No, thank you.
94.7 Pure Salmon.
I mean, I'm down for some pure salmon anytime.
Exactly. It's either that or a restaurant.
Right.
Pure
It's
salmon.
like mellow upstream jazz.
It's like, do you have any cod? No, sir. We're pure salmon. We only sell salmon. Okay, but could I get some swordfish? Sir, we are pure salmon.
How much
That's
whitefish
all
do
we
you
sell
have?
here. Do you do fried shrimp? Sir, pure salmon.
Guaranteed, if you did have a place called Pure Salmon, you would get those questions pretty constant. Like, what kind of other seafood do you have here? None.
But yeah, this is like a mega hipster place. Like, can I interest you in different varieties of salmon? We have our East Coast and our West Coast salmon. We have Alaskan and Canadian salmon.
Oh, man.
But this is none of those things. This is just a kind of a pink paint.
Looks good. I like that gradient. Those four paints work really well together.
Yeah.
Every
And
time
they
we do a
go.
hobby stream, I'm like, I'm one step closer to just buying all the AK paints because of you.
Well, you know what I've noticed lately,
What's
and
stopping you, Hunter?
Yeah,
Money.
Okay. Very valid answer.
we like lately. It seems like there have just been Like so many paints just jumping on the market, like
It's a
constantly.
deluge of quality paint ranges too.
Yeah, they do all seem to be good, but it's like holy crap! Like, why is everybody suddenly jumping into the paint game?
Well, we've got
Because
obviously.
for years it was Vallejo, and Vallejo's a perfectly good paint, and then sometimes people would want Reaper, and that was it. Other than Games Workshop for like a really long time, except for those few places that I would go to get my Formula P3.
Do you want to know the real answer? I think my real answer at least.
I mean, I would my thought would just be that minis games are more popular than ever. Games Workshop is like everywhere. It's got more people playing it than ever before, and so
I think that's part of it. So I think the actual answer, though, from the actual number of paint ranges is we're getting into the weeds here a little bit with the business stuff, but I believe it's more due to distribution. Because you're right, there were things like for a long time it was Citadel paints, Vallejo paints, Privateer Press, P3 paints, and Reaper. The problem with every paint that we just mentioned outside of Citadel paints was sometimes your store wouldn't have one, sometimes this store wouldn't have that, sometimes they're hard to get from Spain. Like it's always issues of getting them from into certain areas.
Yeah.
And consistent stocking. And I think a lot of stores got fed up with that and either stopped carrying them or otherwise.
Well, that's like the thing. Like when I started on these AK paints, I was like, okay, well, the store near me has a dedicated range.
Mhm.
They have a big display.
Exactly.
So when I run out of this black, I'm going to be able to come back and get
this
the
black.
same black again, or this red, or I mean, really black is black,
Yes.
but it's like if there's like a purple or a green
That
that
you
you've been
like.
using in your whole army, that's a color you want to be able to go back get again. But it's just like no, we've already moved on to like the
Mhm.
next trendy thing, which is pro acryl, and that was after we went through scale 75.
Yeah, and that's true. And also
So it's like just like can we just keep like like where do all
Yeah.
these guys keep coming
I
from?
think part of it is also the other part of it is that there were openings in the market for certain types of like Turbo Dork. Obviously Meredith is now our CEO, but they're doing a very specific
Yes,
thing with
and at the risk
metallics.
of seeming like I'm like this is a promo, like that has a specific purpose.
Yeah,
Nobody else does what Turbo Dork does.
Correct.
But whether it's Vallejo or Reaper or even AK, which I tend to like the most, they're all still acrylics. They offer like a nice wide
Yeah.
range of colors. Like I don't really need any one of them more than any of the
Sure.
others.
Sure. I do think it's really just stuff like distribution because like now you have even like Duncan's Tooth and Coats paints that are coming out.
Yeah.
But those are coming out through Asmodee specifically. So now they have their own paint line that's going to be able to be in stores and stuff like that. So I think it's partly it's a quality thing. There are a lot of quality brands that decided they wanted to do better paints.
And part of it may
which-
be manufacturing. It may just be easier to manufacture that now.
True,
Before.
and I think it's just a combination of all those effects. Honestly, I think there's the market openings. I think it's like you said, the miniatures just becoming so much more of a thing because it's not just Warhammer, and I think that's actually only part of it. D&D miniatures and RPG miniatures. Obviously, we even have our own miniatures now. The Fantasy Foes
That is very true.
RPG,
Printing is
and
taken off.
we've got really cool ones coming out that are not Fantasy Foes. You'll have to check out those for later. I got a sneak peek of that from Ben last night, actually.
Yeah, he didn't even know what it was.
I didn't know what it was at first, and,
He
and then he told me. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I'm really excited." Very cool looking mini. It's probably the most unique mini I've seen from us, honestly. And that's saying something considering we have all those Star Wars minis and these Ogre minis.
Yeah, and it's the ones he's referencing are for a very specific thing, but there are also minis you could use
Yeah, they're pretty rad.
in your fantasy trip campaigns and your dungeon fantasy campaigns, and even if that's your thing, your D&D campaigns.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff. Those RPG minis taking off really big because I have so many friends that don't play Warhammer, don't play any war gaming, but they paint minis because they play RPGs all the time.
Yeah, I
have
guess
more-
I still have to remind myself that painting minis isn't just a wargaming thing anymore.
Oh, I'd argue it's less a wargaming thing now because so many hobbyists are just into painting and not playing like complicated games.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just old, and for like so many years,
I know-
that was the only reason why
Not
people
into playing
painted
games.
minis was for what?
Brandon said that's me. He's not into playing any games. I just because I know I have more friends now that paint for RPGs than I do for war games, which I would never have said 20 years ago.
I'm still like I've said this before. I like to get the whole experience. I want to get the mini, collect the army, play the game.
Same.
Well, mostly I like kit bashing, so sometimes
Oh,
it's hard
well,
to find
that's
people
the
that are
most
willing to
expensive
actually,
hobby.
that actually want to play rules with kit bashed stuff. Because then you're like, well, that's not canon.
They're probably out here in Austin.
I'm like, but
Austin
these
has a
rat
group for
dudes live in
everything.
space and they have lasers and it's all good. You know, let's go.
Yeah.
Mantic makes a good range of space rat dudes,
Mhm.
if you want to check them out.
I'm about to start another army myself, actually. So I'm revving up. I finished an army, and I took a break. I haven't been hobbying for like the entire month almost, but I'm about to go on a little bit of a bender. I feel like
A
coming on.
bender.
Oh yeah.
Man, my kid has he's hit this crazy phase where he is just all energy all the time, and he also learned how to throw temper tantrums,
Oh sick.
and it has really been like destroying my hobby time because he's just reached this point where he's no longer happy. Like you can't just put him down and he'll like play with his cars and stuff. Like he wants constant human interaction, and if he doesn't get it, then the temper tantrums happen.
That's me.
Did you say that's me or that's
me.
mean?
That's me.
Yeah,
I'm just like screaming over here. Give me attention.
but he's adorable, so
That's
it
I
feels
guess
like
it's
it feels like a totally worth it trade.
How old is he?
He just hit 18 months like a few days ago. This was last Saturday.
Yeah, I had a lot of. You're one of a few hobby friends that got kids over the past few years, the like past 2 years essentially,
Yeah.
and they also have similar stories about their hobby time being affected a little bit.
Yeah, like when he was I thought it would be he would be sucking up the most time. That's a mean way to put it because I love the little guy. I thought the most time consuming part of his childhood would be when he was a little bitty baby and that it just need to be like sort of looking after him and fussing over him like constantly, but that was not it.
I think
Because he's just like sleeps most of that time. They sleep most of that time. And you can just they'll just nod off, and then as long as you're near them to respond if they cry or whatever, then it doesn't really matter. But now that he's 18 months and he can walk everywhere and he wants to grab everything, this is like by far the most time consuming stage that we've hit yet.
I think they're the most time consuming part of childhood is probably their entire childhood.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping,
from what I understand.
I'm
That part
hoping
where
that
they're being a child.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that once he is better at talking, maybe he won't need me to like be right on top of everything.
Yeah. He can
He
go
can
give
just-
some
he
like
can be-
speeches and stuff while you
Well,
do.
no, he could be playing in the living room and he could be like, "Dad, I just did this thing with this car." I'd be like, "That's so cool." Paint, 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 paint.
Dad, I just pooped my pants. Well, never mind. At least you were able to tell me.
Yeah.
Oh man. No kids.
It's more than the pants pooping though, honey.
It's
a
but
magical,
it's
joyful process.
it's gonna pay off in spades when you teach them how to paint yourself, and then you never have to paint one of your own armies again, Ben.
No way, man. I want to paint my own army.
Oh, well,
Although it would be nice to
have someone do the infantry.
well, no, to have somebody to maybe play it with sometimes.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Hopefully he'll enjoy that.
Or, and this is, I have to warn my friends about this too, because I have some friends that are like, oh man, can't wait to teach him blah 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 or whatever the game is, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember how much you enjoyed the things that your dad enjoyed all the time.
Right, exactly.
And but I got bad news for you because there's gonna be a moment in time, and it doesn't matter how cool the thing is, but there's gonna be a moment in time that whatever you think is the coolest thing in the world, your kid is gonna be like,
Yeah, it's
this is the
totally
dumbest thing I've ever
anti-dad.
seen.
It's called the dad
Yeah.
phase.
Oh yeah.
Dad. And yeah, that'll happen eventually.
Oh yeah.
Weirdly, I mean, some parents don't ever get that, but that doesn't I should still just assume that I'm going to because the likelihood
just
is
don't
that
just
you
don't
do.
force feed them the thing that you want.
Yeah.
If you do that, which a lot of parents seem to be doing, because there's a generation of parents that grew up with like licensed media and stuff like that. I feel like in a way that lots of other generations haven't. Like we grew up with like the cartoons and stuff that were being shoved down our throats, and we have an affinity for those licenses and stuff. And people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to show them, this movie or this TV show or whatever."
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a good chance they're just not gonna like it.
Yeah, totally.
Do we have any comments in chat, Brandon?
Oh, there's so many.
Oh
Really?
no. Oh no, sorry
Someone
guys.
says if I want a kid to whip my butt in a game, I'll go to the MTG pre-release.
There we go.
Yeah.
Another scary thought: those gamers today for whom D&D is what their grandparents played in college.
True. It's very
Wow.
true.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. No, you're not joking. Like,
But I mean, their grandparents also played Mario, and Mario just had a movie come out, so there's
Yeah.
definitely some appeal for these things across
Sure.
generations.
I mean, we're the generation. I don't know if anyone saw it on Facebook and social media and stuff like that, but we shared a picture of the Gregos, not Al, but his son and her wife. They had some people may remember Al. Al used to work at SJGames. He was also a very long time MIB, so he's run tons of demos and stuff for us out in the San Antonio area and at other conventions.
I was not aware he was actually an employee. I thought he was just a mid.
No, he worked for us for a while.
Yeah, for a while there.
And
Didn't mean
his
that it sounded
his
condescending.
yeah, his son and daughter-in-law had a Munchkin themed party for her and her daughter who share a birthday. They have the same birthday. So they both had and she's like very young. The kid's like maybe one. I can't actually remember how old she was turning. She's very young, but I'm like, oh yeah, the parents are the Munchkin players. Like we're at that level.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. Eventually, it'll be the grandparents. They're the Munchkin players. Generations.
I don't know. I mean, like, is there? It seems like, and maybe this is just because I am old. Like, a lot of the kids are playing the same stuff though. Still, like Pokemon
Yeah.
in particular.
Oh no, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to frame this as bad. It's cool to be
I'm just
to be
wondering,
one of
like-
those brands like D&D or like Munchkin or Pokemon or something like that's lasted this long. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Mario, like you said, the grandparents played Mario, and here's Mario.
I'm just thinking, like, are there any games that the kids play now, other than maybe Fortnite, that like befuddle their parents in the same way that Magic probably befuddled ours, where they're like,
Stuff
why
like-
do you keep buying these cards? You know,
Roblox.
they don't have any sports stars
Probably
on them.
Pokemon stuff.
Probably
It's probably
still.
Pokemon stuff.
I mean, I'm sure there are some parents whose kids end up playing Pokemon that were not exposed to it.
Yeah.
When they were young.
They're
and
not.
so
they
it is
weren't that type of
baffling.
nerd because we knew those
Right.
people. They weren't playing Pokemon with us. They were collecting it.
Yeah, and the fact that they weren't and knew about it when they were the age of their kids
Mhm,
might mean
mhm.
they're just extra putting their hands on
I
their
would-
faces now.
I would say something like Warhammer could probably be in that mix. Miniatures games because minis and D&D. Honestly, probably actual play RPGs. Watching people on Twitch is probably the thing that confuses what
Yeah, that-
we do here. Like
Yeah.
I think the concept of Twitch probably confuses more adults than anything because not of course not our audience because thank you for joining us on Twitch. But I do hear that from in a lot of like groups, like why, or not just groups, but like friends that have kids like that are in that age bracket where they're just like, why is my child watching someone play Minecraft?
Yeah, that honestly has baffled me quite a bit. I have not my kid; he's too young, of course, but I have a cousin,
Oh, they're already watching
and
Minecraft.
he is just, if he's got a phone, he's watching somebody play Minecraft. It's like, don't you have the Minecraft app on your phone? Like you could be playing
Yep,
Minecraft,
but
but
yeah.
you would rather watch somebody play Minecraft.
I was at a
And the people, they're always obnoxious, right? They're always so obnoxious.
I-
Maybe there are some like totally reputable Minecraft streamers that are like interesting and funny. But
Well,
if
the
there
ones that-
are,
the
these are
ones that
not the ones
kids-
my cousin is watching.
well, that's the thing. The one that kids like are the ones that act like kids and are
Yes,
kind of
yes,
annoying like kids.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's annoying in the way when an adult acts like a kid. It's very off-putting.
Mm-hmm. The
Um,
kids don't catch that. They don't.
Nope.
It's like a weird.
It's Blue's Clues kind of.
Yeah, it's not just the blues. It's a weird uncanny valley of humor.
Yeah.
Like it works on kids and it's creepy for adults.
There was one he was listening to who actually did like old-timey radio sound effects along with what he was doing. So it'd be like the auga auga kind of stuff like happening in the background.
Eventually, they just become morning drive shock jocks.
Yeah, except
Like-
those don't really exist anymore.
I'm saying that they'll adopt it. That's where they'll exist suddenly.
Oh yeah.
Chat says people watch other people play football, baseball, golf.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get that either.
It's
Yeah,
one
I
of those
don't
things.
watch-
It's
don't watch any of those
I
things.
again, not this isn't a judgment call. I'm saying for Ben's question, what is the thing that confuses parents like Pokemon did? That's probably the one that I would say goes on there.
Yeah.
I understand it. I watch people on Twitch all the time, so I'm here to. I stream at home. We stream here. I try to.
I don't watch
like-
people stream, but I will watch people play video games on YouTube I'm on the fence about trying it, or
Sure, yeah.
I don't
I,
like.
for
it's
me, it's
kind
not.
of
There's
interesting
also,
to
like,
me, but
there's
I
that
don't want to
thing
waste
of
my time.
if you're watching people play sports or whatever that are, national level players, they're really good at it. It's
Well,
the same thing with some of these people.
It
Some of
some of
them.
them, but it depends on what you're watching for. So we're getting into an
Yeah, some
interesting.
of them are. Some of them you watch because they're funny. Some
Yeah,
of them you
exactly.
watch because
That's what
they
I
might
watch.
give life advice.
That's what I watch.
Which I know some
is
of
for
them do.
humor generally. I watch for personality. I think that's what a lot of people are watching for. Is that they're not necessarily look. I mean, some people watch for like the hyper competitive stuff, obviously,
Yeah.
but like, I don't watch games to see if I want to buy them. I watch the streamer because I'm interested in the streamer, and I think they're funny or they're, you know,
Yeah,
they have a
sometimes
particular
they're like
twist.
hilarious. Like I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day. First of all, sorry to anybody overseas, but if you have an accent, you're always that much funnier of a streamer to watch. Like it just like it just adds to it. There was some like Irish streamer who was doing a pacifist build in Fallout 4, and he kept making the joke like yeah, I'm gonna steal your stuff. I didn't say I wasn't a kleptomaniac. I'm just a pacifist, and so it just like kept going. Like he just kept
Kept
running with
stealing
that
stuff.
gag, or like he'd find some other way to kill somebody or something. Just like like he just
Walk
do
you into an
basically
enemy or
every
something.
yeah, just do like every bad thing. Be like, I didn't say I wasn't a blah blah blah. I just said I was a pacifist, and
That's funny.
it was like it was really funny. Yeah, it was well done. And of course, that's the sort of thing where it's like I like Fallout 4. I'm never going to waste the time trying a pacifist build because I'd rather be painting.
Well, that's
Um,
another thing is I watch a lot of hobby
so
streams
that
while
works.
I'm hobby streaming, or I'll hobby stream myself when I'm doing it.
Yeah, I used to do that.
It's fun. It's almost like having a hobby night. That's kind of why I like doing these because I hope people get a chance to like maybe they're painting stuff themselves or they get to watch it later, maybe while they're painting or something.
Yeah, some people stream for hours, and that's the only way I can really sit there that long, is if I'm doing something else.
Yeah, because I'm usually when I sit down for hobby night, I'll usually start around like 9:30 or so at night, and I'll go till past midnight. Sometimes like
I mean, most of the time, if I'm painting, I've got some kind of fiction on.
oh yeah, see I don't do a lot of I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks and stuff like that.
No, I mean like television fiction.
I don't watch shows. While I'm
Usually,
doing
it's a
it.
show that I've watched before and one that you can like follow. Okay, just through
I
the
can do
audio.
humor and stuff during like comedy podcasts.
Oh, really?
and
See, I
comedy
never do.
stuff.
I never do humor because if you belt out laughing, like just like, you know.
That's
So-
fair.
So no humor.
I don't have that same issue, but I understand what you're saying. My last hobby session ended up just being me cleaning airbrushes.
Well,
I did a lot of that getting used this way.
I was so proud though.
Were you?
Oh my god. It wasn't like, oh man, these are unusable. I just got so distracted cleaning the airbrushes. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do this now. This is what I'm gonna do. And I got this
yeah, once
nozzle.
you start.
Yeah. Well, I got this nozzle that I'd had clogged since like my very first airbrush. So essentially, I I ran my first airbrush into the ground. Like I treated it like really badly. And when I eventually went to
So
clean it,
sad.
I couldn't unclog the nozzle.
I'm like imagining Sarah McLaughlin playing and picturing your poor beat up airbrush.
Yeah,
Abused
in the
and
arms of
unloved.
an angel.
Yep, exactly.
It was pretty much in the arms of an angel. That nozzle though has been clogged for over a year, and I just haven't used that nozzle. And I finally got it unclogged. It took an act of Congress, but I did it, and I was really proud of myself. So now I have like another functional airbrush, which I only had.
Well, you can switch out the nozzles too.
I did,
I've bought new nozzles
I-
for mine. I bought a lot of new stuff
I
trying to
did.
get my poor old
but I really wanted
airbrush
that
to work
nozzle to work
properly. and-
because I bought a new nozzle, and the new nozzle I got was the wrong size,
oh
and I didn't want to buy another new nozzle.
yeah,
So I just haven't been using that particular airbrush. To be fair, I have 3 airbrushes. I don't need 3, but I wanted a third one active. That was the whole point of having the third one.
oh, how are we doing on time, by the way, guys?
It's about 2:40.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben does have to roll right around 3. So
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
have
go
a
for
hard
3.
exit. Most days I'm like.
But we'll
pretty
throw
content.
We'll throw it up on there. What he's done on these highlights towards the end here. Give you guys a good look at it.
Yeah, 2:55 is the drop dead time for the stream.
Yeah.
But that's about what we normally do.
Yeah, we're trying to do
Often
about
I
an
guess
hour.
we kind of a lot of
We'll
times
go a
we
little
stretch
over
into
normally,
3.
but Ben's got a
Yeah,
emergency date to keep.
it's not an emergency, but it's something
emergency.
that I
You gotta
gotta
be
do. I gotta
somewhere.
be somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
We'll do some close-ups of it at the end here. Well, I want to thank Ben for even coming in. We were pretty short-handed because of Gamma, so we're excited to have cool. And he just happened to be working on a cool secret project right at the same time. So
Yep.
I was like, you know what?
All right.
Which we were gonna try to tease, but they're like, no. we
Yeah,
got Ogre
this.
coming
So
up
I was. Yeah.
soon.
So what's funny is there's a second secret project I can't even talk about. That's
We'll
not
just
the
have to
Ogre
have you
Miniatures.
back.
Yeah, we just have another thing to do on here,
Yep.
so we're excited.
Chat saying they can't paint like you, but they might be able to paint their hands.
Yep.
Well, and
Yep.
remember-
That's where it starts, folks.
And I do want to say,
Yeah. Start with
most
your hand.
people can't paint like Ben, which is fine.
Most people, yes.
Because Ben gets paid to paint, and a lot of us will never get paid to paint.
Yep.
However, there's a lot of cool stuff to take away from it. Like, you can do a kind of dumbed down version of anything that Ben's doing, which is what I do. I don't do all the same highlighting, and he mentioned contrast paints. Those would work on these minis really well.
Well,
It's
I did not have good results with them, but
What-
I
what-
only tried one color.
Yeah,
so
what
it's
you-
the
what-
sort of thing you want to experiment with.
one good thing to do with contrast paints, especially on things like this that have these flat surfaces on them, is if you want to do a base level of a contrast or speed paint. There's another thing you mentioned, paints coming out. There's a lot of now alternatives to contrast paints. I think AK does one called Instacolor, and Vallejo does speed paints. Is it Vallejo? No,
it's
Army
Army
Painter
Painter.
does speed paints.
Army Painter's been doing
They do
Vallejo
speed paints.
does.
two different kinds of speed paint.
Yeah, and Vallejo does another one too. Maybe Vallejo's Instacolor.
I think they're the new one. Yeah, I haven't really seen them.
Vallejo does one as well. Anyway, there's not AK, it was Vallejo. But if you do those types of paints, essentially those are one coat, very watery paints that are work almost like a combined wash and paint itself. And if you do something like that, then do a dry brush on top of it, it can accomplish something not like the same quality, but something really cool to put on a table. It'll
Yeah.
look good.
And I don't know, I should probably do a stream like that too, because this is I mean, what I'm doing right now, it might be a little helpful to see some of it, but it's a concept everybody's already familiar with. Edge highlighting is something that most people who are interested in miniature painting, you understand how that works.
Yeah, but this is one of those things that I want people to be able to see it. Plus, I want people to see the cool minis that we're putting out
Yeah, totally.
ahead of time, and we just get to chat with you. So,
But if we do,
to pick your brain
if
a
we were to
little bit.
do another Ogre Miniatures set 4 painting stream, maybe I could just bring in a bunch and sort of
Yeah.
maybe even try to slap chop them a little bit.
That's that's one with Car Wars I did was I tried to take a car from start to finish within just the 1 hour, essentially 1 hour and 15 minutes. I think is what we ended up.
Yeah.
And doing something like that would be kind of fun. Just being like,
Oh, and if anyone's curious about this super fine tip that I have on this brush, I only ever really buy size 1s. Let's see if I can. Can you see the
Towards you.
one
Towards you a little bit.
towards me a little bit?
Towards you.
Oh, yes. All right, so yeah, there we
The
go.
other you.
Size 1. You can see the little 1 by my fingers. And then I like the Winsor Newtons, and even though I try to take good care of them, I do paint so much that hairs will fall out slowly over time, and after about a month of use, you usually will end up with one that has just a few hairs left, and you can use it for the crazy fine detail stuff. So I put those off to the side, because eventually they'll wear out too, and once they are this fine, they're not good for a lot of other stuff. So they're really good for these edge highlights, and particularly getting the darker colors on the lines. But if I wanted to paint like a wizard cloak or something, a thicker, newer size 1 brush is better, just to be able to move more paint around, get more paint on. So I thought you guys might find that interesting, that these things sort of have a life cycle. It starts off as a general use brush, and then once it's gone through that life cycle, it becomes a super fine detail brush, and then eventually those will just totally go kaput. But I usually have a bunch of these at a time because I don't use them that much. So once they've hit this phase, they last a lot longer just because they're not being used as much as the new size ones.
that brush will eventually have In the Arms of an Angel playing for it.
Yeah,
Just like an airbrush.
yeah. Man, I don't know what to do with my airbrush. I've tried everything and I can't get a good seal on the nozzle.
Sounds like it. Oh, have you tried Vaseline?
Yeah, that's my first. Maybe I'll try it again.
Did you try plumber's tape?
Yep.
Wow,
I
plumber's tape
I
didn't do it.
reapplied the plumber's tape this time, and it just if you get any water down on the nozzle, it just starts bubbling everywhere, and that
Then
is I
I
think that's a
gotta-
big
I
part of
gotta-
why I get splattered.
Yeah, I got a good
Um,
solution for you.
What is it? Tell me.
A new airbrush.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Well, I replaced the nozzle. This is the second nozzle, and it's clearly it's not the threading of the nozzle. It's the threading of the brush.
Yeah, at that point you might as well just get a new one. It sucks, but yeah, Badger normally does a birthday sale. This year they were moving warehouses,
Oh, did I miss it
And,
already?
so they didn't do it this year yet, but they said there was going to be something coming. So I'm kind of holding out. Not that I need a fourth airbrush, but if I got a cheap fourth airbrush, then
Well, it sounds like you got enough that you can just give me one, bro.
give you no. So here's
What are
what
you doing with three of them, man? What are you doing?
So I have a Sotar, which is like my fine stuff, and for anything that it's like my I'm actually trying to paint something here brush. The other two are mostly to alternate between base coats, so I could have like a Zenithal type setup with all in one.
Chad is suggesting silicone grease like you find
Oh.
in a auto part parts.
Interesting. You could try that. That's probably in the Vaseline range, but it might be better than Vaseline.
Worth trying.
Yeah. I was actually really happy I was able to get like a nice smooth gradient going on
It looks
this guy.
good. What airbrush do you have again? Is it a Patriot?
It was just a Patriot.
I like the Patriot. That's the one I finally unclogged the nozzle on. That's the one I beat to crap.
I think I would like part of the reason why these days in particular I'm not really thinking about getting a new airbrush or doing more airbrushing than I do is because I don't have anywhere in my home
To airbrush.
to airbrush anymore. So airbrushing means going outside.
You do
Which,
Nick.
like you have like maybe 3
Then once
nice
before,
days for
yeah.
that in Austin.
Yeah,
like in a year.
and part of the benefit of
And the rest of the time it's too hot or too cold.
yeah, and part of the benefit for airbrushing is that you don't have to go outside to spray. If you're going outside to spray, you might as well just hit a spray can on it or something. But you just set up a spray booth right next to the baby's crib.
Oh, no, you did not.
And then you get him started inhaling those fumes early.
Yeah.
So he builds up a tolerance.
Exactly. It's like why I start.
Right.
I feed children.
I'm sure if I
microplastics
played
now.
it to Sarah that way, she'd
Exactly.
understand.
Yeah, we're in the modern world. You have to start feeding your child microplastics really early,
Oh yeah.
so that they get used
Might
to
as
it.
well get him used to it.
Exactly. It's like immunizing them
Welcome to
against.
2023, old
This
people.
is not legal advice or parental advice.
Yeah,
I need
seriously.
to preface this. Don't do this with children.
This is full satire, folks.
Don't-
That's why.
yeah.
That's why. Personally, that's why I've been eating those silicone.
Like I like to think there's
bags
somebody
that
out
come
there
in
who was like about to plug an airbrush in by their crib, and they're like, "Oh,
Oh, maybe they listen to our warning there. I've been eating those silica gel packets
another one.
from games for years.
oh yeah, the ones that say do not eat."
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
delicious.
You used to just do it because it was punk rock, but now it's like a survival strategy.
Yeah, now it's to get me
They taste
prepared
just
for the
like nerds.
yes.
Don't let anyone fool you.
Again, do not do this.
Again, we do not. This is parody. Everything
Yes,
we
it's
do
all
here is parody.
We are the
except
people
the
that make
painting.
Munchkin, so
That's a Munchkin promo coming out. Eat the silica gel.
go
Go down a level.
Oh, go down a level.
Lose
Yeah, well
the
then no
level.
one would
Listen
do
to
it.
Twitch advice. Go down a level.
Lose the level. That's right. Curse. Listen to Twitch advice. That's a good curse.
We
Now,
want
that's a
them to
real
be listening
promo.
to just
Well,
the
that's gonna
stuff
be
about the
like an
painting.
apocalypse.
hmm
What was the last thing we made for Apocalypse? Kaiju?
Kaiju, yeah. Elaine worked on that one. I remember.
That sounds right. Chad says they're actually pretty much inert. I guess we're talking about silica gel.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're talking about silica gel.
Oh really? I thought they could poison you. I thought.
I think that's
You
more of
just
a
shouldn't eat it.
warning
You
not to
shouldn't
eat it. I think
It's
they
not good for you. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You can have a bad time.
yeah. Pretty sure your body doesn't know how to handle silica gel, and I feel like that's just coming out the other end in a way that you don't want to.
Yeah.
Probably not. No.
One end or the other. You don't want it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot. I've got this whole turret too that also needs. So this one's
Well,
getting
actually, that'll be a
pretty
good comparison
close.
point, so you can actually see with the highlights, without the highlights.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you haven't
Yeah,
finished it.
it's about 250, man. Maybe.
Yeah, let's throw it up on the spinner, and you can point out some of the stuff that we've done here.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much it's all about those edge highlights, right?
Throw the turret on top, and you can kind of compare it. Let's show people what we're talking about as far as the highlights go. I know it hasn't fully dried, but I'm sure we can kind of.
No, it dries really fast. AK stuff dries super fast.
Yeah, and when you're edge highlight too.
So you'll be able to
Yeah,
see the
just
difference
edge
there.
highlights.
The turret's a little flatter. It's just more of just the flat red, mostly. It's got a little bit of highlight to it, but compared to like the body, which is he's put the edge highlights on there, and eventually the turret would get a similar level of highlight here.
Yep.
Now the turret is a separate piece. Theoretically, you could keep that like that. I know a few of ours are like that, where we have the turrets not glued in or anything like that.
Yeah, sometimes I magnetize them. What I did with this was I just drilled a little hole with my pin vise drill and stuck some paper clip in, and so you can pull it in and out. And it's the same on this one, except it accidentally stuck in the wrong side. I like it to be in the turret side, but that's kind of what I do for all of them. And then when you're taking pictures,
Let's throw the other minis up
you
there
can
so people
also,
can see
like,
the other minis too.
you can also pivot the turret, have it pointing different ways,
Yeah.
and then it looks more actiony. All right, let's get everybody up. For
And these-
whatever reason, like I absolutely love the LGEV in this set. Like, it
Is that the
reminds
flying
me-
one?
Yeah, it looks more like a flyer than anything else. It is just an LGEV,
Nice.
but it's got little wings that looks like it could take off, and I just love it. It has this giant fan in the middle of it.
It looks like a
It reminds
really
me-
rad airboat.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of some anime I used to watch as a kid, and it's so hard to track those down because there were so many like random dubbed animes that would just like show up on local networks in
Knights of
certain
the
parts
Zodiac
of the
and stuff
country.
like that.
Yeah, like was it Mazinger Z? And
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be big enough that people bothered to dub it,
Hmm.
but it was like one that came on after Voltron that I can just like barely remember, where the dude would jump in a little hover, like a little flying thing, kind of like that,
I
and he would
think
fly up and become.
I think
head
it
of
was the
something.
English version of Mazinger Z.
It is?
Except I don't think it was called that. I think it was called something else.
Yeah, they probably called it something.
There was-
else, 'cause they gave him
They
crazy.
took a
weird
couple of them, they
names.
threw them into one show, and made it like a super show type thing.
Yeah,
And it was Mazinger, and it was another one that they did that with. There
But
was two of them that they did similar shows with.
there was like a brief little time like around Voltron where there were just a ton of those, and they like you just get new ones all the time, and like the one you liked would suddenly go off the air. and
It'd
get
be like
replaced by some
13
random new
episodes
one.
you get.
Yeah,
and
because
there'd
they would have
be a-
only dubbed like 10 episodes.
That's why they
before
did
they
those
put on the
super
next
shows.
one.
They would just throw in episodes of stuff and then be like, okay, well that's all I have dubbed that one. Why don't we just make this into a different show? And it's literally the same name. They just throw a different show in there for Japan.
Yeah, so I don't even know, like, if someone were to be like, oh yeah, I know what show you're talking about. Here's the real hovercraft thing you're thinking of. Like, it probably would look nothing like this, but it's just that, like, that weird circular turbine reminds me of some random anime I used to watch when I was very young. And it just, I don't know, I just think it looks cool anyway, regardless. But yeah, these, like, the original, like, units from set one, all the tanks and stuff, they just had a much more angular feel than these do. And particularly, like, just the standard tank, I love it's, like, weird, like, it has, like, those sharp angles. These feel a little bit more modern, like, they have, like, a few more details, they're more curved. Rats, I should have been prepared with, like, the tanks from, you want to go run and grab one real quick? I think there's some
they're
in
in
the
there.
other room.
Yeah.
But we can just show you the difference because they do look different, even if they basically have the same effect in game. But the set one have that crazy like retro future vibe, like very 70s, like hard angles, and these are more rounded. They feel a little bit more like modern vehicles. At least the tanks do. The super heavy is really cool, and I wish I brought that. But hey, we've got a chance for more streams, I think, before this goes live. And like Hunter said, we'll have pictures of them, various pictures posted on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. Hunter, do you know where they are? They're up in the clear shelf on the, right-hand wall. No.
But I found some other stuff. I believe these are from the Vatican.
Oh yeah. The yellow ones might be gone.
Yeah, the yellow ones are gone right now. That's why I didn't find any of the tanks.
So here's a one of the mobile howitzers from the last set. So this one, the new one looks much more like a tank. And then you can
That's
see
like a
the
super
super
heavy?
heavy is like way more boxy. than this guy.
And those are from set 3, right? Or 2? 2 or
think
3?
The super heavy is from set 2. Like, I think the first set had like the most basic stuff, like tank.
Yeah,
GEV,
it was literally set 1 was like if you had Ogre 6th
and
edition,
Ogre. Yeah.
you had the stuff to play that. So
And
that was
then
like
set-
standard stuff.
Set 2 was mobile howitzers, super heavies, light GEVs, light tanks.
And
And
that's a
personnel
regular GEV.
transports. Yeah, here's a regular GEV.
Compared to that, so
It
just
also has
like
the
weight
central thing. The GEVs for set 4 have 4 feet that they zip around on, as opposed to this one, which has a skirt. Both cool designs. I like them both a lot.
Essentially, the miniatures are advancing as you would through a game. If you started with the Ogre, you could start with like Ogre 6th edition, and then the first set has everything you need for that, and then you could go into like, you know, battlefields or something like that, and here's some stuff to add more minis to that in set 2, and then you get into more pretty much it gets all the way to the GEV, which is kind of like advanced Ogre to a degree, and that gives you everything. This gives you all the stuff you need for it.
Well, set 3 I think was just essentially 3 vehicles. It was a set.
Doppel.
It was a Mark
cylinder.
5 and then the Doppel slash fencer kit.
Yes.
Because I think the only difference between those two is the turret.
Yeah, but it was cool. Yeah, they're really rad.
And so for whatever it's worth, these are these are the ones that would have been fighting alongside the designs that would have been fighting alongside the fencer and the Doppel, and these are the ones that would have been fighting alongside the Ogre. Although depending on what point you're at in the war, I think all sides have like all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you bringing these in. Folks, if you're interested in some Ogre Miniatures, you can still get the set 1 and the battle box.
Sets 1 through 3.
1 through 3. Those should be available on Warehouse 23. Don't miss out on the next Kickstarter. You can check us out on social media. You know, follow along there is probably the best place to get us. That'll be coming out hopefully later this year, I believe is the goal. And today, our Kickstarter, don't miss that either. Monster Seeds for Dungeon Fantasy. That ends in literally an hour. So jump on that if you are interested. But Ben, you can sign us off, man.
Yep. Well, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully, if anybody had any questions,
Yeah, you
we
last
got
minute.
answers in chat.
People were asking about your shirt.
Oh, it's an awful green thing.
Yeah, that's what they're asking.
That's
That's what it is.
That's the answer. Yeah. We did these when we had done, I don't know, I think it was like around 2011. We did a printing of we did a reprint of the awful green thing
That was like a convention shirt or
for the
something.
first time. Yeah, this was a convention shirt. We did a reprint of that game for the first time in a long time, and I'm pretty sure you can get it.
Yep, awful good things. It's in a pocket box now.
Oh yeah. Well, I think there are 2 versions, right?
There's a
like
regular,
more-
but there's also the
yeah.
pocket box version. The pocket box is cool because it's actually a green pocket box.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. So thanks a lot for joining us. Check out the Kickstarters, and I do these like once a month. So I'll see you again around the end of May, probably with more Ogre, maybe with something else. And until then, have an awesome life and keep gaming. See you all then.